The ultra-woke Scandinavian Airlines ad that argued Scandinavia has no culture has been restored. In their righteous battle against the far right and 4chan, Scandinavian Airlines says we will not back down in the face of a coordinated harassment campaign. So they brought the video back. And as you can see, it's another one of these woke commercial circumstances like Gillette or whatever. It's got 83,000 dislikes and only 8,000 likes, and they've disabled the comments. But let me bring you in on the great secret as to what's really going on. In this commercial, for those that haven't seen it, they basically ask, what is truly Scandinavian? And then it shows a series of people saying nothing. And it's supposed to be shocking. They go on to show a bunch of people explaining that these traditional things made in Scandinavia are actually brought from other places. The commercial is stupid. Firstly, because regular people appreciate that other cultures have their own things. The people who are met at this commercial are not far right like the media would tell you. But this is where things get interesting. The commercial was originally pulled. You may have seen this other segments I've talked about this. And Mother Jones, for instance, said 4chan trolls target Scandinavian Airlines with racist harassment campaign. That is fake news. It's not fake news in the sense that, like, obviously 4chan's talking about it, but so are tons of other subreddits. This is what they do to try and shut down any legitimate criticism of a terrible fake woke ad. The Guardian writes, what is truly Scandinavian? Nothing. Airline clarifies ad after far-right criticism. Far-right, you say. Let me tell you something. Historians were mad about this. It is just not true. Scandinavia has invented and created many things. This commercial claims nothing is Scandinavian. They have no culture. And then goes on to talk about how everything they have actually was pulled from other cultures. First of all, if it were the case that they've never created anything, then the argument that different cultures take little bits from other cultures to make their own unique culture, that's literally how the world has always worked. I mean, granted, going back 1,000 years, people were really isolated, so they had very, very unique cultures. But everything is inspired by something else, especially when you're looking at Europe and how people moved around and borders changed relatively frequently. You could argue nothing belongs to literally anybody. And in their stupid commercial, they're like, what about, the Danish pastry? Actually, it's Austrian. That's not true. It's actually not true. Now, I'll just show you. The pastry, I can't believe I'm talking about Danish pastries, but I've got to debunk this in terms of their stupid argument before I prove the media is lying to you. And that's the big point. The media is absolutely lying to you about what's going on. I want you to know, most regular people think this ad is complete BS. And I'm glad to see that people are standing up and saying F off with this insane nonsense. So you can just read the Wikipedia about the Danish. I said, that's interesting. Is it really Austrian? It turns out it was derived from an Austrian recipe. Let me make this clear. Austrian bakers had a certain recipe. They came to Denmark. Danish bakers saw that recipe and changed it and made something new that was unique to Denmark. Now, they want to argue that the Danish pastry itself came from Austria. That's not true. This iteration of what it is did not exist in Austria. So if you want to argue that the Danish pastry was created in Austria, then who invented baking? Because you can keep going back and to a million years and say, did you know that the Danish pastry was actually Austrian, but it's not even Austrian because it's actually Arabic? That makes no sense. The point is, different cultures adapt and change things and make things unique to that, on their own. So if you want to talk about what's uniquely Scandinavian, we can talk about the things they've literally created. Now, I think it's dumb to talk about this, but I want to go after why the media is lying. And I've got an oh so grand debunking of this trash commercial. It has nothing to do with far-right criticism. It has to do with historical accuracy and respecting other people's cultures. Now, look, if these Scandinavian cultures want to be walked all over and pretend like they have nothing, then by all means self-flagellate. I don't care. I'm not Scandinavian. But I think in terms of historical context, in terms of what we talk about existing and where things come from, I'm going to stay true to history and talk about, yes, Scandinavia has invented things. Are you familiar with the man they call the Merchant of Death? He was in fact Swedish, and he was responsible for the Nobel Prize. That's right. Good old Alfred Nobel invented dynamite, and he was called the Merchant of Death. Apparently, what happened was someone thought he had died and then published an obituary saying the Merchant of Death is dead, and he freaked out when he saw it. So using his fortune, he created the Nobel Prize. Guess what? This dude was Swedish. Dynamite is uniquely Scandinavian. But of course, everyone's taken it. Are you then going to claim that every explosive in the world isn't actually unique? Did you know that the United States didn't actually invent military ordnance, of a specific kind? You're going to argue that the people who are developing weapons for like Northrop Grumman, they didn't actually create the explosive because dynamite was made by Alfred Nobel in Sweden. It's stupid. It's stupid. We all stand on the shoulders of giants. It is not far-right criticism. And now I want to drive this. Well, actually, let me read this for you. And then I'm going to provide you with the ultimate evidence of how the media manipulates you. I don't actually care about the commercial. What I care about is whenever there's some stupid ideological woke fake news, you end up with the media publishing this trash. Okay, I say the media, but I mean various left-wing outlets lie. Mother Jones claims it's 4chan. They say much of the online harassment directed at a major European airline in recent days appears to have come from users of a controversial 4chan message board, according to a review by Mother Jones. This is how they lie to you. You see, of course 4chan's talking about it. But one thing that's really important is that it's just a message board. I would be willing to bet that these people who work there probably made some of these posts on 4chan. I wouldn't be surprised. So they could then screenshot it and say, oh, look at this. It's 4chan. It's the boogeyman. Ooh. Now, of course, I'd be willing to bet. I'd bet a decent amount of money 4chan is making threads about this. But guess what? Other forums are also making posts about this. It's not just 4chan. It's like the entire internet. And on YouTube, no one's being directed to this video. Like you've got 90% thumbs down. To argue that the only reason anyone has found out about this comes from 4chan is absurd. But they want to do that because 4chan is their boogeyman. Now, admittedly, 4chan is pretty powerful in manipulating the media. So it's almost like a symbiotic thing where the media loves being played like for morons because of 4chan. They say, earlier this week, the Sweden-based Scandinavian Airlines released a commercial as part of its What is Truly Scandinavian marketing campaign. According to the airline, also referred as SAS, absolutely nothing is truly Scandinavian. The ad explains our democracy. Credit goes to Greece. Parental leave. Thank you, Switzerland. The iconic Scandinavian windmills were actually invented in Persia. What about licorice? It's Chinese. The point, the ad explains, is that, in a way, Scandinavia was brought here piece by piece by people who traveled abroad. We can't wait to see what wonderful things you bring home next, it concludes. The only problem is that that's literally everything. So I guess the issue here is they do have a point, but there are many things that are absolutely unique to Scandinavia that, probably grows there. There's some kind of fishing, all of that stuff. I mean, they're huge whalers, for instance. I'm proud that's not part of our culture. But the problem is they say nothing. They could have said, what is truly Scandinavian? A lot. But did you know? And then they could make their point about various things aren't actually from Scandinavia. One of the stupidest things, though, is that there was a Twitter account that posted a tweet saying Swedish meatballs aren't actually Swedish, they're Turkish. That's ridiculous. Like, it's meat, dude. You took meat and you mashed it up. I haven't found any other culture. Well, maybe I'm wrong, but I've not heard of any other culture that puts jelly on their meatballs and potatoes. Perhaps there are, okay? I thought that was pretty Scandinavian. Maybe other people do it too, whatever. Lingonberry, you can buy it, you go to IKEA, and they have all of this unique stuff you can buy. Saying Swedish meatballs aren't Swedish, they're Turkish is ridiculous because literally every culture mashed meat into a ball and put stuff in it. So we get it. It's a Swedish meatball. You can argue the meatball isn't Swedish, but the Swedish part of it is. Anyway, that's so dumb. The response has been ferocious. The airline's social media channels have been bombarded with thousands of angry comments from people who disagree with the ad's message. SAS told the Norwegian newspaper Dagbladet that it believed the outcry was the result of a coordinated attack on the campaign. Oh, really? It's not coordinated, I'm sorry. It's called, a viral moment where regular people push back. And I've got all of the evidence to show you. It's going to make you laugh. Well, let's read. SAS's suspicions appear to be correct. They don't. While the backlash likely has multiple points of origin, it does. The ad campaign has particularly incensed 4chan's poll message board, the politics-focused portion of the website that's a known hub for fringe alt-righters and white nationalists. The commercial directly contradicts bigoted notions of white European and Nordic supremacy, which are core beliefs of the internet far right. No, that's not what they're doing. Dude, If I told you that Alfred Nobel was Swedish and he invented dynamite, that has nothing to do with supremacy of white Europeans at all. It's a historical fact. If I told you that if you go to IKEA, which is Swedish, they sell Swedish meatballs and lingonberry jam. And when you go to Sweden, guess what? They eat that too. Also, they got this really great fast food restaurant. I think it's called Max Burger. I haven't been there in a few years, but it's awesome because they have this fried cheese burger. It's really, really good. Haven't found that anywhere else. So yes, they've taken cheeseburgers from us, I guess. I don't care. The point is, it is not far right. It is not alt-right to claim that Alfred Nobel invented dynamite. It's a historical fact. Now, he doesn't want to be called the Merchant of Death. Fine, I think it's a kind of a cool name, but I can understand why he didn't like it. They say, as is often the case on the poll board, the rage is unequivocally racist. While 4chan is small compared to some other social platforms, the site still brings in 27 million monthly users, blah, blah, blah. Here's the point. They go on to say, oh, we saw all of these people on 4chan talking about it. What if I were to tell you that one of the biggest social media websites, most popular boards with millions of followers also found the ad to be ridiculous and stupid? Would you then claim it was the far right that got it shut down? Here's what's going on. SAS made a huge blunder. They pissed everyone off. They don't want to eat the loss. They're a business. I get it. So they go to the media and they say it's the far right because only racists would believe that someone like Alfred Nobel could invent anything. In fact, did you know he didn't invent dynamite? Because what was it? Nitro? Is dynamite made from nitro was derived first in Germany or some other nonsense. I don't know where it was actually produced. The point is, the dude invented it. We get it. It's how inventions work. It's not like some dude invented the toaster by literally making a toaster from the earth. Okay, the first electric toaster was put together and cobbled together from a bunch of existing pieces of technology already. We still say that person invented the toaster. But here's my favorite part. I can go to Reddit and look at all of the posts that have been made about this commercial. And sure enough, r/videos with 22 million viewers. 22 million. Now, this post isn't the biggest, but the post says, Scandinavian Airlines decides to S all over their customers in an attempt to do worse than Gillette. What is truly Scandinavian? Now, I know this wasn't the biggest upvoted video, but r/videos, it's a community on Reddit. Reddit is very, very left-leaning. 22 million subscribers to this particular subreddit, and it's got 73% upvotes. And then the top comment is literally, media, quote, why are Nazi groups getting more members than ever? And then one day for no reason at all. Media, let's just vilify the entire native culture and see what happens. That's a great point. Now, they're not necessarily, there's a ton of comments like this, and it's not the only one. There are other posts too, corporate facepalm. In fact, over at r/Norway, I don't know what it's necessarily about, but one guy says, I'm surprised my face is still intact after face palming like a jackhammer. That's how stupid this is. That's how regular people are responding to this trashy ad. So let's talk about what's really going on with the media in these commercials. Corporate facepalm. Bravo, good sir. I completely agree. It was a failed attempt by a media outlet by commercial production company that thinks Twitter is real life, not realizing there are people who love Scandinavian culture. I'm going to let y'all in on a secret. Did you know there are Americans who have no ties whatsoever to Scandinavia, but want to go there to have lingonberry jam on their Swedish meatballs because they want to experience a different culture? There are people who want to try Belgian speculous Biscoff spread straight from the source on a Belgian waffle in Belgium because people like the idea that there are things in this world to explore and try that are different from where we are. Now, admittedly, the world is homogenizing. It's kind of a bummer, but at the same time, it is what it is. I'm not super bent about it. I remember I went to the Bahamas on a cruise and I was all excited, like, ooh, it's going to be cool. I wonder what they have when you dock in Nassau. And what did I find? Hard Rock Cafe, Starbucks. It was same old, felt like I was in Times Square. So we're creating a homogenized global, earth tourism industry. And that's boring. It's like, been there, done that. We want unique things. So what you really do is you get away from the touristy areas and you go find local culture that is very similar, but still fairly different enough to try a new spice, a new way of preparing something. Brings me back to that stupid Danish comment. about, it was actually from Austria. It wasn't. According to the sources, it was a recipe they changed and made it fattier and put more eggs in it. Congratulations, they made something new. But let's get to the point about what's happening with the media and these corporations. First, the corporations don't want to lose money. So they'll absolutely say, how do we respond to this? Because they're slimy degenerates, they're going to be like, just call it a coordinated harassment campaign. Who are you trying to trick? Regular people think you're insane. You're not going to trick us. We're the ones complaining about it, and we're not far right. It's regular people on Reddit saying, gee, I wonder why, people are, it's basically Nazi propaganda. And I really do mean it. It's black propaganda. Do you know what black propaganda is? I've explained it before, but it's what you do is you pretend to be your enemy and say something ridiculous so people get scared of it. So it would be like a men's rights activist putting on feminist, like a shirt with like feminist slogans and then saying ridiculous things so regular people think that's what feminists actually believe. In this instance, SAS has produced an ad that is like so stupid, regular people are angered by it, providing fuel for the far right. And then to make sure everyone thinks the far right is truly the most powerful, faction of people on the planet, the media comes out and claims, you bet it, you bet, everything has to do with the far right. Everything that you're seeing was the far right's power and strength. And so I've often wondered this. Why do they try so hard to make these groups sound like the most powerful entities on the planet? SAS, a major probably multi-billion-dollar airline, one of the biggest airlines, in the world. I don't know. There's not that many. Had their commercial shut down by the far right. So now you do this. You've created a circumstance where the far right is, you've got regular people who are watching this commercial saying, hey, man, why are you ragging on my country and my culture? This is ridiculous. It's like self-flagellation. You're saying there's nothing here? That's not true. I mean, I was talking about with my buddy on my IRL podcast, and I was like, what about Midsummer? That's like uniquely Scandinavian, isn't it? I don't even know what it is. It's like they did that movie that was really bad. I don't know. They dance around the sun or something like that. Anyway, they have their own unique culture. Why pretend like they don't? It's such a corporate facepalm moment where you're slapping your face over and over again, like that guy said. You get a lot of people who actually get offended. That's like, people love their countries and where they've come from. That's regular people. You then have the media coming out and saying the far right is extremely powerful. And what do you think is going to happen? You're going to have people saying, I'm mad at this ad. These people are powerful. These people must, have strength to fight back against this insanity. So you are effectively recruiting for them, which brings me to my final point. The ad was dumb. They brought it back. Fine. But these media outlets want the far right to grow. They want the far right to seem powerful. And I say, I'm doing far right with air quotes. That's their language. It doesn't necessarily even make sense. Ultra traditionalists or whatever, or like ethno-nationalists aren't necessarily right wing. It's kind of a weird. No, I don't even know if anyone knows what right or left wing means for the most part, but it's typically what they're saying. So the point is, they want these people to seem so powerful. They want them to actually recruit. They love it. Vox.com once ran a story that claimed that there was like 11 million people in the United States who were alt-right, which is just not true. But they want you to believe it for two reasons. They want clicks. They need conflict. Journalists are called vultures for a reason. And they say things like, what's bad for everyone else is good for us. Because they're just nasty people. I don't know what to tell you, man. Because, I can throw criticism in my own direction, and I often do. Typically, everything you hear is always some kind of negative or opposition. And for whatever reason, that's the way things are. I don't know. I guess there's just not a desire from people to learn about what they already know they like, and they're more concerned about being warned of threats or things that could damage, their lives for whatever reason. But when it comes to the media, they manipulate this fact. They exploit it by creating shock content to trick you into believing the world is scarier than it is. So you click it, they sell ad revenue, and they sell subscriptions. Antifa is not as bad as a lot of people would claim, nor is the far right, I'm doing air quotes, extremists. But there's a reason why I think why I often talk about Antifa, for instance. When it comes to these, ultra-nationalist types, ethno-nationalist types, and ultra-traditionalists, like the extremists, of a certain persuasion, the governments are going after them. They're labeling them. They're targeting them. And they've been doing it. When it comes to the far left, they do monitor them to a certain degree, but we're seeing these people roam the streets, smashing stuff, attacking people, and there's almost never anything done about it. And that's basically why I talk about it. Right now, there's like a group of people in Germany that got arrested, and I'm like, yeah, but come on, that happens all the time. They arrest people who are nuts, not Antifa. These people go around bashing skulls, and that's it. Mum's the word, and it happens again. So whatever, look, we all have our bias, but I'll wrap this up. These advertisements, these people live in a fake world of Twitter where a tiny fraction of people tell them these things are true. When they fail, they refuse to accept responsibility and blame it on the fringe far right or whatever. And it's just fake nonsense. I'll leave it there. Stick around. Next segment's coming up at 1 p.m. on this channel, and I will see you all then.